Welcome to Wild by Zones, the podcast about reviewing every zone in popular MMO World of Warcraft. I'm Ari.
Orin.
I'm Eowyn.
And what zone are we talking? And today we're talking about the Barrens, the last of the second zones that we're going to be talking about for a while now.
It ain't barren because there were lots of things to do in the barren.
Oh my god, there were way too many things to do. I literally was dying by the end. I'm like, why is this taking us 2 months to go through this fucking zone?
Zone's real
To be
big.
fair, we were big, but yes, it is a very, very long zone. I think probably the longest zone in all of WoW history, besides like maybe end game zones.
At least in vanilla WoW, I think we might have some longer zones in like expansion stuff where they have fewer zones.
I also feel like end game zones are always like the longest. Like the Suramar quest line takes you forever to do, but that's also because it's locked behind reputation and stuff.
Then the Tannin jungle takes like 5 minutes to do.
Rip Warlords of Draenor, worst expansion. Wait, I forgot about Shadowlands, guys. I forgot. My bad.
I mean, we all forgot. Hopefully,
Blizzard said, "Let me hide this."
There was a gas leak.
Yes, that explains Shadow.
Nice.
Anyway, Barrens is. I thought if you're talking just specifically purely about the vibe, the experience of Barrens, it is an incredibly effective zone. Like you come from like the harsh, deserty, like bluff-filled Durotar for most people. Sometimes become a Mulgar. It's a little bit different, but there's a similar sort of movement to the space. And it lightens into to Barrens a little bit. It's not nearly as harsh as rough, but you still have that same sort of like sweltering heat, that dry feeling. Like, you almost feel like in the back of your throat you're walking through the zone. But like there's always stuff. There's this beautiful. There was people doing the right roads, but this thriving sort of like literally crossroads town of like the both trade and some soldiers, like the outpost. You got all this like I don't know. There's these big Quill War societies constantly around Centaur. There are these oases of like extreme, like almost weird alien life in the middle of this like deserty savanna area. It's really cool. I just think that in terms of the whole time you have this like really somber sort of like wandering music playing, and just the experience of walking through Barrens, doing quests and all that sort of thing, I thought was just really, really felt incredibly nice.
I'm inclined to agree. That was I really enjoyed just like the vibe of going through the zone the entire time. And
I thought the design of the zone was really good in terms of how you get around the zone and do quests and explore the whole thing. It feels very natural, but of course, classic WoW is pretty good at that, so not unexpected. It's just everything feels like a natural progression, which is really nice.
Speaking of the Crossroads, I think it's worth mentioning the most settlements in World of Warcraft have guardsmen that are like mostly of one race. The Horde guards in the Crossroads are very much like mixed. There are equal amounts of Horde orcs and Tauren there, which I think sort of like gets into like the way the Crossroads feels. It like really makes the Horde feel like a like unified faction between the orcs, trolls, and Tauren in a way that I thought really fits with, you know, the vanilla WoW concept of the Horde. It is the pact between Thrall, Vol'jin, and Cairn, and them all like working together as theoretically equals in this unitary society, which I think is pretty cool.
And while there are soldiers, and there's definitely like a military quality to the Crossroads, ultimately it is a Crossroads trading town. It exists because it is the most important town between Orgrimmar and Thunderbluff, right? It is the space between. Like people are coming through. We have all types of quests we have for people. There are goblins around. There are, there's druids from, Tauren druids. There's orc soldiers. There are There's a the orc shaman woman who sort of like runs the whole town, who's a very different sort of focus, and all these different people having different interests and different focus. And I really just felt like even though it's not like a full like city or village, it feels like an alive place, even if it's a relatively new place.
There's also an undead apothecary, which I feel like is a nice inclusion. It's just because he feels specifically separate from every other character there, both in tone and just obviously in appearance, which is very fitting to how the undead are pretty isolated in terms of the rest of the Horde.
If you're playing a non-undead character, by the way, this undead character is probably the first friendly undead you would probably see. Because, speaking of this, the Crossroads, this probably gets into like a thing about the Barrens. The Barrens is the second zone for all non-undead Horde characters in Classic WoW. Tauren,
It's gotta be. It's way too fucking big.
Yeah, it's interesting for that. I agree, because like what you're doing here is not just showing how closely allied and how closely like equal the Tauren trolls and orcs are in this union, but also explicitly excluding the undead is not really a part of the Horde in the same way as these other races are. They're not the same world. They're closer to an alliance of convenience than they are an integrated part of this space.
Because they're ugly and they're weird. Scary.
I mean, also they're on the other continent.
And they're ugly.
And they, are traditional enemies of the Horde, the old Horde, the previous Horde before this Horde formed, right? Like there's still these sorts of these old, like Eastern credit. It feels like it comes from all the three Warcraft games and those wars. Is it has an old reified set of relationships and politics and beliefs and relationships that doesn't exist here in the.
I thought the undead only became an enemy in Warcraft 3, and that it was mostly focused on the pure alliance Horde conflicts in the first two games.
The undead are the successors to Lordaeron, though.
That's the idea, yeah.
I guess
they're the same people.
Sure, but it feels very different in fighting. The vibes of fighting the undead Lordaeron forces versus fighting the human Lordaeron forces is completely different.
No, I agree.
It doesn't feel like a successor to the Lordaeron Alliance forces.
I'm just saying that the history of relationship between the orcs and the undead is weird and uncomfortable and has this strange history where but the history does exist, even if it's it was in a very, very different form at that time, where the relationship between the orcs, the Tauren, and the trolls very much is this modern specific alliance between basically these three people trying to all make basically a home for their people that was safe from the world. It's very much less an alliance of convenience and much more an alliance of shared values in space, right? They all are relatively quote unquote tribal societies with shamanistic traditions. They're all, sort of pressured from all sides of different groups that don't treat them with respect or kind of see them as lesser, and they come together and form this space together. I think it's important that the undead are just separate from that.
I think I agree with that, but it's important to remember that the Horde alliance, like the orcs and the trolls and the Tauren, are also all alliances of convenience. But because there's so many shared cultural values, the integration was much more natural than it is with the undead.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I think the Crossroads is a great example of that, because the Crossroads really, in its core, is just a military outpost. The fact that it turned into this really vibrant trading town of both research and study and commerce and just people living there is because of the happenstance of shared cultural values, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's also worth noting that it's the Horde does not control the Barrens the same way that they do Durotar and Mulgore. Where Durotar and Mulgore, you get there's a lot of enemies in place to place. You definitely get the impression that the general power here is the Horde, whereas in the Barrens you are more surrounded by enemies. This is very much like the frontier in that sense, in that there's way more Quillbore than there were in Durotar. There's this huge harpy presence, which I guess was also there in both of them, but not to the same degree. You feel like you're a little more isolated, and feel like you're fighting a little more of an uphill battle in the way you're settling here.
Yeah, you can physically see that in the world. If you just walk around, there are several burnt out Tauren and orc encampments all over the Barrens.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly places where they've attempted to get a foothold and just failed because of just the general hostility of the space towards them.
But I feel like it's a frontier from the orc perspective, but not from the Tauren perspective. I feel like the villages that were burned down weren't like super recent outposts. It's like those are where Tauren villagers had been living, and then just the pressure of all of the Centaur and the Quillborg who keep encroaching northward and trying to drive the Tauren away, which is why they initially joined with the orcs in the first place. Is what like I feel like it's frontier from an orc perspective, but not frontier from a Tarn perspective. It's from a Tarn perspective, you're driving back forces that are trying to kick you out of your home.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's just there are distinct cultural differences between the orcs and the Tauren in how the space is viewed. Because all of the villages you see besides Crossroad are in the Barrens are entirely Tauren. Besides the two goblin places are entirely Tauren architecture.
And they kind of like moved over to how
going into this, I think, gets decently into the hunting quests.
Because that's like the big shared cultural thing. Like I feel like the most uniting factor culturally between the orcs and the Tauren is how much they value like strength through strength deeds. What the hell is the name for that? Like things you do that are cool. Proves you're strong. Feats of strength.
There we go.
Oh my god. Okay. So through feats of strength, specifically towards the like animals within the places that you're living. It's just because you get hunting quests from only like an orc woman and a Tauren, and two different Tauren, right?
I think it's only one. I don't. Oh yeah, no, that's the second one.
There's
Right?
the male Tauren and then there's the female Tauren.
Right. Yeah. There, I think the quest that you spent the longest time doing, and I feel like it's worth doing. The hunting quests in Mulgore were miserable. They were easily the worst part of the zone, and they really bogged down the way that the zone played out in terms of structure. They really bogged down and made it feel there. They don't feel that way in the Barrens. The Barrens zone is just laid out in a way that these the hunting quests feel like a nice thing to do while you're on your way to doing other things. That also helps the largeness of the zone not feel as annoying as well.
Yeah, it's interesting that the hunting quests are not given to you. You mentioned that they're feats of strength. They're not giving to you in the way that you could expect. Oh, you are a soldier, you must go and do these things. The first hunting quest we see are given to you by a shaman, the woman who who's been appointed by Thrall to run the crossroads, basically alongside the military authorities. Because Thrall is pretty much someone who does not want a purely militaristic horde. But one of the first things she says to you is... What an
idiot! Garrosh has something to say about that.
True. We'll see that later. One of the first things that she says is that, don't look at me like that. The Thrall is the rule that the Horde will be if you have equality for men and women, right? Because I think this is kind of this fresh start, this freedom from these old systems, even the tribalistic and violent patriarchal systems of old orc society. It's just clearly present here in this sort of very traditional sort of hunting tradition, right? Of coming through,
I think,
proving yourself and hunting these smaller, weaker animals, eventually to picking up the great animal threats, like the ghost lion, for example.
Yeah.
It's also interesting to note in Warcraft 3, I'm pretty sure all of the Horde aligned races, besides undead, don't have a single female unit that you use. They're all male.
Yep, and that is also true in Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 1. Technically,
whereas
Warcraft 1
the Alliance has some female units.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty clear that there's the fact that we end in this hunting quest, first one, given by a woman who's appointed by Thrall, and then later, eventually, we end with the most powerful hunting quest given the Tarn. It also ends with the woman. Feels like very much these are two traditionally patriarchal societies trying to transform, and they partially through their union of one another. And I think it's really cool, the way that, especially the way that sort of expressed itself through the most conservative of traditions. You can imagine it.
I agree. I especially really like how it like really emphasizes that like the Horde is trying to represent something new. It is trying to yeah.
Thrall's vision.
So I think that's going to bring us up to it's very funny, by the way, coming into this zone from a Tauren, the big enemies that you're fighting like in the zone for Tauren are a bunch of goblin asshole mercenaries and doing evil Captain Planet villain shit. And so it's very funny when you go to like Crossroads and are directed towards a whole goblin town of friendlies. So that's Ratchet. Ratchet is the first neutral town that anyone is going to go to in World of Warcraft. It is a big goblin port on the side.
That's not true. If you need to do fishing in Booty Bay and you're level 10 and you need to run to Booty Bay so that you can do the fishing competition and you die a bunch.
You know what? That's fair. I didn't take into account people playing the game in a way that was clearly not intended by the devs.
But the fact that it's a neutral town, I think is interesting. You bring it up because, in a way, the Horde is this neutral thing. There's this collection of groups of peoples who come together through shared values. The goblins are in the same space, but they don't have the same shared values. They're harsh, extreme capitalists. They care about profits and trade. But the same way, I feel like there's this interesting, I think, relationship between the goblins and the Crossroads. This is like the Ratchet and Crossroads. They're very close together. These two towns are like not that far away from one another. Ratchet is clearly a more established, more clearly a town. The way that Crossroads is more of a collection of like trade posts and soldiers and travelers. Ratchet is more established as a town, but they have this like this clear
symbiosis
relationship. Symbiosis. That's a great way of putting it. And I think it's really interesting that the Ratchet goblins are as much integrated into the Horde as they are separate from them.
They really are, yeah. Even though Ratchet is nominally a neutral town and that like Alliance players can go here, part of Ratchet's purpose in the game is to provide like a neutral flight point for Alliance players that are going from like Stranglethorn Vale, which is
also a port like ship from Booty Bay to Ratchet.
Yeah, away from like Alliance.
Really important.
Yeah, it's a way for Alliance players and Horde players to get to like the opposite continent in some ways, especially for Alliance players who don't have the Zeppelin straight from Durotar to the to Tirisfal Glades. But really, even though it is like an independent organization and is part of the Steamweedle cartel, which is officially neutral, it is very much in symbiosis with the Horde. It is run by Gazlo, a dude who we talked about a little bit back in the Durotar episode, was effectively a friend of the Horde and a guy who's like worked with Thrall a bunch of times on like pretty even terms. And he seems to keep the good treatment of the Horde in mind when he's discussing things.
Bro, Gazlo is such a good guy. I fucking love that man. Like he's like, I'm an ethical capitalist. I'm like, that's so adorable. I love you. But he's not as hot as Vol'jin, but that's impossible, so.
I see.
You know how.
Yeah, while goblins have this sort of neutrality, this like clearly attempt to build the world into a new thing, trying to like leave these old systems and recreate their own with their own the same way the Horde do and are in that state of space. There's a reason they're separate, right? And that's because the values are so different. Like the quest at the Crossroads are these shamanistic quests or druidistic quests where we try and like work with nature or like do these prove ourselves through hunting, or they're militaristic quests given through by the orcs at the time, like solving certain threats, killing centaur, killing quillbore, killing
harpies,
etc. Goblin quests are all about, well, I kind of want this thing done, Oh, there's this cool like tech thing I heard about. I want you to take care of it. And I'll like pay you good profits.
So Samaflange.
Yes.
Okay, so there's an ongoing thread in like the whole Barrens questline about this weird device there's some kind of miracle device that was invented by the goblins of the Venture Company, which are the evil Captain Planet villain goblins from before, which have like an oil rig. You go in there, you kill a bunch of them, you find a Samaflange. Is what a Samaflange explained at any point? Absolutely not. You go back to a goblin who's like, all right, this is a cool Samaflange. I'm going to tinker with it. I'm not really sure what it is, but I'm going to tinker with it. He breaks it immediately. Okay, I know this one goblin up here. She'll be able to help you out with that. She'll be able to fix it. Bring it to her. She breaks it more. I got this buddy in Orgrimmar. He'll be able to fix it. Brings it to him. He breaks it even more. This just keeps... And again, at no point during this sequence is what a Sabouflange is explained. You just keep going from this like weird miracle device from Goblin the Goblin. Keep trying to mess with it. Keep fucking it up even more. And then finally you like return it to like a dude who actually like knows what he's doing with like a goblin mine camp that like actually has like they finally get, hey, what if we found the manual to deal with this thing?
But you hear the manual off, and then that's the end of the quest chain. And it gets to the person that you actually like read these manuals, that sort of thing. It never is expressed in the manual what the camouflage is. I get the impression that none of these goblins know what a camouflage is. They just like that it's a weird whirly thing that does things. Like I think goblins have on one end their capitalist desire for profit, for increasing their own status, that sort of thing. Very individualistic. At the same time, goblins have this, I think, almost stronger that it's insatiable curiosity. They must know how things work and what they are. They're arrogant and individualistic, so they have to pretend that they know how things already work, but ultimately what they're actually trying to do is figure out how things work. Try to put things.
So they're like Silicon Valley, like tech bros.
Basically, yes.
Honestly, a little bit. That is.
And I think it's really cool because
Gazlo's way cooler than those guys, though.
Gazlo's the best.
Because we both have this sort of like clear like economic cultural reasons for being together, but also like the very clear like goals of these people are so different that they're not in the way of each other. They're happy to be around each other, to like share space, to share resources, to share military to even an extent. But their actual relationship is, we're never going to be it together. They really like actually fit together because they just don't have those shared values. Which is interesting because the undead, of course, don't have those shared values. So the undead are part of the horde. I always thought that Philly contrast to be kind of interesting. Like in a lot of ways, it feels like the goblins are a more natural part of the horde than the undead. But the choice not of the undead, obviously, part of it is practical. Is if you want the game wanted to have.
Yeah, the undead are literally desperate.
Yeah, so, I mean, like probably on a gameplay level, like clearly Blizzard wanted the Horde to have one faction in the Eastern Kingdoms, but yeah, I think we say like in terms of practical on the level of like undead are desperate, but also the undead do share certain values of the Horde. They're also what the goblins don't have is that they've never really lost anything, right? They've always sort of just generally been using their capitalist powers to build their base around the world and slowly grow their profits and grow their trade networks and the like. The undead are, but that is very different than the orcs, trolls, and Taran, who all are increasing threat from all sides and having to like either leave their homeland or leave certain ways of life or just come together and completely change their normality. We see in like the changing patriarchal systems of their new horde.
Actually,
and the undead are much closer to that.
In the perspective on goblins has changed so much. Seeing after in the most recent expansion, seeing the Undermine and how goblins are treated there, and how like it's like going to Kalimdor or Eastern Kingdoms proper is like a new opportunity for them, not just to like make profit, but to escape the horrible oppressive environment of the Undermine. So the goblins are kind of their own kind of refugee as well, like most of the Horde races.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Undermine is mentioned a few times.
And that is true. And eventually, the goblins do end up in the Horde in Cataclysm. When specifically what's the name of the cartel that ends up in the Horde?
The Bilgewater cartel.
Bilgewater.
Yeah, Bilgewater. Do end up in the Horde, but that's and it is because of basically a refugee crisis that they have their own.
And also because of the Alliance's like war crimes against the goblins. Good job, Alliance.
Which but I do still think it, despite like that undermine sort of history that does exist, that's more of less of a cultural like trauma and more of an individual trauma of people being kicked out of there, and so I think they fit less into the Horde because of that.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Beyond that, what you do in Rashit is aside from like dealing with the enemy goblins, most of what you do in Rashit is kill pirates and recover stuff from the pirates. There honestly isn't that much more to it besides the Samouflage thing is the most memorable thing there. I think we should move on to the big.
Oh yeah, well, I do want to quickly say that there is a we captured in Duratar a group of like Theramore
oh yeah,
humans. We covered basically another group of these here south of the Ratchet. They're pretty simplistic. They're just like, whoa, we hate the Horde. We are sad.
but
You guys killed our leader.
I feel like that's actually a big flaw within the Barrens like classic environment is the establishment of a big Theramore settlement without explaining if they're here because Jaina wanted an outpost here or because they're a remnant of Dalen's Theramore. Like I think that's a like it's like, okay, did Jaina do this? Like if so, what the fuck?
I understand what you're saying here.
Like I'm saying you don't get any information from the quest givers about like what these people are fucking doing here.
I feel like that makes sense because of the fact that you're looking at the Horde specific perspective specifically. The Horde doesn't know why these people are here. They have no idea. All they know is there's a bunch of humans that want these that are using this place to attack the Horde. There's no communication here, and that's like
sure.
But I feel literally.
That's also true of the place in Duratar, but we basically learn through some context clues and like little letters what exactly.
No, it's literally a letter that explains specifically what is going on, whereas there is no information. They don't say any names, like you don't see anything. You're just like, oh, more Theramore humans, let's kill them. Like it's just I feel like I need a little more information here, especially knowing the actual lore behind Theramore.
That's fair.
It's especially strange because we're fighting them by the behest not of any Horde person, but of a high elf, and it just seems very strange and out of like left field.
Yeah,
like it is a pirate.
So
we're
not
getting told by the Horde to fight the Alliance. We're being told by pirates to fight the Alliance because they kidnapped his pirate friend. I'm like, what? Okay.
Why'd they kidnap that blood elf anyway? Like, what the fuck?
She had cute tits, Aeon.
Okay, that's not a reason to kidnap someone. Just look at them. Don't be a freak about it. Oh my god.
That's just a neutral town. You can just go there.
Wait, are you saying I can kidnap Vol'jin?
Because he has cute tits too?
Yeah, Vol'jin's got cute everything. Look at this.
Guys,
right. I need to be banned from talking about Vol'jin. Someone's gonna ban me.
No, this is our spicy way of entertaining the youths who need sexuality in their podcasts. Right?
I need sexuality too, so. But I'm not old. I'm 26. It's fine. I'm not sensitive about my age.
I'm pretty sure that's old. Anyway, Centaur.
So the main enemy that you face through the first half of the zone with the Horde is the Centaur, a large group of Centaur called the Kolkar, which are the clan that occupied the Barrens in Warcraft 3. You fought them a whole bunch during the Orc campaign.
They're literally
while you were rescuing them from the Tauren.
And they're the ugliest creatures Thrall has ever seen. Bro, what the fuck? Actual voice line from Thrall in Warcraft 3.
You go around and fighting a bunch of the Centaur who have a lot of times gone into who are mainly based around a couple of these like weird pools flush with life. More on those in a little bit. And you go around at the behest of this dude whose name Awen made fun of. What's the guy's name? The guy who was in charge of the outpost where he told you to kill the Centaur leaders.
Is his name like Bloodhilt or something stupid like that, or Deathgate?
Deathgate, yeah.
It was Deathgate. Yeah.
They should not be allowed to name themselves.
Orcs want to be seen as villains, like with their names. Like I don't understand why they do that.
Yes,
Orcs, like Thrall literally said, "I want to be called slave. That's my name." Like I get why, like to honor his roots, but his roots suck, and he shouldn't honor them. Sorry.
All right.
Fuck you, Thrall.
So anyway, on that guy's behest.
I like Thrall's name. I think that's a cool idea of like maintaining his idea that orcs are not a proud people but a slaved people. I think that's a cool idea. I don't know.
I like it from a lore perspective. I just want to make fun of Thrall.
Fair enough. He deserves all the mockery he gets.
Yeah.
Remember Legion when he drops the Doomhammer?
Bro, that's so embarrassing for him. It's because he literally misused the elements to kill Garrosh. He said, "Fuck you, Garrosh."
And then
Elemental
he
blast.
drops the Doomhammer into the Maelstrom. You have to go and find it. It's so funny.
Troll!
Legion Troll is a really...
He's a loser. It's because everyone was angry about how he was written in Cataclysm. So. Well, not everyone. Chris was chill with it.
Aside, yeah. The Tauren, the Centaur, the Tauren. They're also
except for
literally the ones who drove the Tauren out of where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, you fight the Centaur over the course of like things. The Centaur are like a very much a militaristic conflict between this like vaguely Mongol Horde faction of a horseman. Literally,
their women's have like hijabs, but also their tits out. Very interesting.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Orientalism going on there. Just a little bit.
Scary.
Not really much I can get into there with that, but like you, as you're like going through there, you like go through, fight the Centaur where they are, kill their leaders, and because of your efforts and the war effort against the Centaur, it crescendos to a big battle in a ruined orc town, where this massive it's like a whole event, like this massive wave of centaurs shows up with a whole bunch of like orc and troll defenders have to like stand up to fight against them, and they actually have like little voice lines in the fight. It's really nice. It's really cool to like build this like battle.
It was really cool, but it happened in an orc outpost, not a town, right?
No,
like,
it looks
I thought all the buildings were like military, and they had ramparts and stuff. Like orc outpost.
It was an outpost. Yes, it was a closed outpost.
Right. Yeah, there was no civilians there.
Yeah, there are a bunch of these types of like outposts burnt out across Prophet. This one just still exists.
Yeah,
it is the site of many battles, according to the one Beyond dude.
It was very cool. You have to kill like a certain amount of Tauren before the warlord shows up. He's a big elite guy.
Don't kill Tauren.
Fuck! I'm doing it too. Centaur. It's a really good quest. It feels very satisfying as an end to like the Centaur plot, and I thought it was fun. It was good.
Yeah, I think it sells this perspective that the Barrens is this battleground, right? It is a constant thing being constantly fought over. There's a reason why Crosslands has not developed into a more proper sort of civilian town, and still is this more sort of like adventurer, sort of researcher, militaristic like traveler area, rather than like a properly established like Tauren or troll home, which it feels like it wants to be. And that's because like the Barrens is dangerous. There's constant war going around here. Like there's no ability to just like maintain anything. And I really like the way that the story just feels so strongly of that in this moment.
I think it's funny. That's kind of true of all of the second zones, like except I feel Loch Modan and Darkshore. Mm-hmm. Like those two have like established towns that feel relatively safe, but every single other second zone, like Westfall, Silverpine Forest, Barrens, all feel really dangerous and like up in the air.
Yeah, like I think you're right there. Yeah. Well, to be fair, Barrens does have Ratchet, but yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, but Ratchet isn't part of the Horde. Like it specifically feels different.
True. Mostly I was impressed because I didn't expect to see that kind of like involved outdoor event from Classic WoW. It was really, really impressive to have that. While you're doing that, by the way, while you're dealing with those centaur, you're going to be coming across these weird pools of life filled with these like jungle fern areas that look a little out of place, like much more than you would expect from just a little oasis on the savannah. Turns out there's a reason for that.
You get this quest from this Tauren to check out the weird like oases that exist across the Barrens, and you find that there's some weird magical corruption that's happening, which leads you to the Wailing Caverns. And the Wailing Caverns are basically this big like cavern system that exists within the oases that is closest to the crossroads. Mm-hmm. And inside is probably the prettiest cave that WoW Classic has. It's absolutely lush.
Hey, don't you Mardon's really cool too.
Mardon's cool too.
Mardon was also added in a patch.
That's true.
Oh, get fucked. Anyway, it's like the caverns are humongous. There's like lots of water within. There's things growing out of the water. There's lots of moss everywhere. It's like an absolutely gorgeous place to be in. Like it feels, but the problem is, inside of it are all of these weird creatures that have been like they're growing spikes in weird places. They don't look quite natural. And
Deviants.
It turns out, yeah, they're called deviants.
Yes.
Wait, are they called deviants?
They're called deviants, not deviants.
Yeah,
We've been calling them deviants because it's funny.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so it turns out that a group of night elves have kind of been messing around the Emerald Dream, which no one, honestly, the Emerald Dream is too dangerous. No one should ever mess with it because it just leads to bad things every single time. But basically, a bunch of night elf druids have been messing around with it and have opened up like this portal into the Emerald Dream, which has become the nightmare. Crazy, who would have thought? And it's leaking out into the natural world, which is making these like huge, like jungle, like environments and coming out. So I think it's really interesting because this is the juxtaposition between the Tauren kind of druids and the night elf kind of druids, because night elf druids are so much more about targeting and like specific, like they're more like modern ecologists who are like, okay, so we should probably like cut down on this population. We can't let like where they're always intervening and stopping things to make sure to try and make it so that the environment changes in a way that they want or stays exactly the same. They don't want nature to run its course how it's supposed to or whatever. And they literally interfere all of the time to make it so how they want it to be, which is kind of the opposite of how Tauren druids and how the Tauren culture like enacts on the natural world, where they just want to kind of exist within harmony with it and let it exist how it does, and only intervene when there's outside like colonialist like things happening. Which druids do which night elves do as well, but I feel like night elves are a lot more aggressive about it, which is why I thought that was very interesting, the comparison and the juxtaposition of the Tauren culture of natural druids and the night elf culture of natural druids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially it's interesting because it kind of integrates to that with the general Horde idea we've been talking about earlier, right? The Horde are not an imperialistic people, right? There's some level of like militarism and like expansionism that it does exist in the Horde, but it's really like it is justified. It's presents itself more as a we are protecting our borders, we are protecting our people. It's not this level of like the human or night elf like old kingdoms, which are all like these massive traditional feudal kingdoms, right?
To be fair, the night elves don't feel imperialist to me, but the humans do.
But the elves were imperialists in the past. They're not at this moment, but like Ajara's night elves were imperialist.
Sure. High elves were very imperialist, but night elves are specifically not, because they're like Ashara was fucked. Yeah, that bitch crazy.
That's fair. That's fair. But the Ajara comes from night elves originally, like not like this. Separate group. But yeah, but I think it's interesting to just note the ways in which like. The Tauren definitely here are presented much more as the good guys, right? And the elves sort of like him and sort of fuck things up, right? The Tauren sort of have to like bail out their asses.
Yeah, the head druid of this organization, Neralex, had a bunch of students, many night elves, and like a total of I want to say 4 night elves and 1 Tauren. The night elves all fell to corruption, and the Tauren is the one who's been like, you have to kill my friends so that I could free my guy.
Yeah, Tauren's gotta clean up this fucking night elf mess.
And I think it has to do with the fact that Tauren, despite being around for a very long time, don't have such a specific historical cultural connection to like the past, right? The night elves historically are constantly falling into corruption. They're constantly being, being pressed upon, being like old gods and the like.
It's because of the immortality problem. Tauren are so much more willing to adjust to things changing than Night Elves are, because Night Elves have, like, literally were living for thousands of years, and they're like, ew, nothing's ever allowed to change because that's not how I want it to be.
Yeah, exactly. I just think I find that very fascinating. And
when there's a new patch to the video game and I'm not happy about it.
Bro, did you hear them trying to get rid of add-ons in World of Warcraft? What the fuck?
That's wild.
That's insane.
They claim they're going to put their own system in, but yes. So yes, I think that's really, really compelling, especially because ultimately, the Horde look evil and the Alliance look good, but in the Wailing Cavern, like the little the bursts of verdant greenery, like look like a beautiful thing brought back to the Barrens, which they do know was once a forest in the long past, like back in the Jara's time. It's like because you sort of think, oh well, this must be a good thing. I just think it's this almost like a relatively simplistic sort of like warning here to someone trying to like approach the world that way, trying to reconstruct this past forest. Like the Barrens is now a desert. There's now the area of trolls and orcs and Tarn and Kodo, and you can't probably return to that past world is impossible. I think that's really interesting.
I think I very much agree with that. I also think it really hammers home that the Night Elves are just as arrogant and uptight as the fucking Blood Elves and High Elves are. Because they don't present themselves that way, but the way that they interact with the world is so arrogant all of the time.
Interesting. Oh,
gotta get those elf tropes in.
Now, unlike Silverpine Forest and Westfall, Wailing Caverns is not actually the end of the zone. It's the end of like the first half of the zone, but there's like a whole southern part that we have to deal with too, including a massive, basically like a empire of Quilboar that we have to deal with. That have been fighting
not empire. There are like three different groups. There's not a specific one single empire.
That's true.
It's more of like a warring like bunch of tribes.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, to the orcs though to the orcs. However, Quilboar are a problem. And there's this one dude
keep making these thorny ass vines. It's so annoying. I don't like it.
I do kind of like that. So the first NPC you're going to talk to is a dude called Mankrik, one of the most famous NPCs in classic World of Warcraft.
Hey, he's not that famous. His dead wife is famous.
This is true. He has a quest that says that has I want to find I want to find my wife. I think she disappeared. I need to see what happened to her. And this became like a whole meme back in like classic WoW, where people are having so much trouble finding Mankrik's wife. Because apparently people didn't understand the things, the like concept of the quest, and they didn't fucking read the quest. They only read they only read the quest description. They only read like the thing that said find Mankrik's wife. They didn't read the actual quest text where Mankrik tells you that we were fighting near a ruined Tauren town near the Quilboar, and then I got separated from her. Guess where you find her corpse? It's in a ruined Tauren town, the only one that is on the road here, right next to where
the only one in the entire zone. Like it's really a testament to people not reading fucking quests. Like it's really not that hard to find. Like even if the corpse of Mankrik's wife is like it's not marked as Mankrik's wife. Or with her name, it's as like something corpse or something. It doesn't matter. There's not a single other corpse in that town. It's just one orc woman, and you it's not that hard.
Yeah. Also, the corpse is not like just like a corpse in the ground. It is marked clearly as an NPC you can interact with. The name is in green text above it saying battered corpse, right? It's like, whoa, an NPC saw text on a corpse, that probably something I should interact with, if I'm a human being playing a video game. I don't know. I don't understand. It is it is a really effective quest, right? Like when you just go to like, oh, where's my wife? I need to find you. Walk down the road. Like you probably are just doing your adventures. You're probably not gonna see her for a while because she's not in Northern Barrens, she is in Southern Barrens. But the moment you go Southern Barrens and you walk through and find these lands that are much less controlled by the Horde and much more controlled by the Quilboar, you see this ruined Tarn little village and you find the corpse. And it's just like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. I think that's really cool.
I do agree. Which is also why he's consumed by hatred and wants you to kill many, many Quillboar and get so
60,
many tusks.
Oh my god, 60 tusks. What the hell?
So many. Just a brutal, angry war between these two factions that do not want to understand each other. It's almost like that's a important thing. Though,
Nah.
I should probably talk about
here.
So I think we should probably talk. So a little south of there, you find a little Tauren village called Camp Tarajo, a place that is like, if you're a Tauren, you're going to like see this place on the way to the crossroads. Although you're not really going to get any quests here because almost all the quests here are like for higher levels because they're towards the end of the zone. Though for orcs and trolls, you're not going to really come down here until after like you've done the top part of the zone for a bit. So Camp Tarajo. Camp Tarajo is a nice little Tauren town. It with a like big hunter guy and a couple orcs here and there. It's more Tauren than orc compared to the Crossroads, which was more orc than Tauren. By a lot. In fact, it's mostly Tauren in the.
There's like one orc, right?
Yeah, there's like one orc.
And it's a much less integrated place than Crossroads is.
Yeah, it's mostly just like a little like way station on the way there that the Tauren have set up. And there you find a captured Quillboar. There is a Quillboar in a cage of the Razorfen tribe that tells you about like how the Razorfen and the Bristlebacks, which are the ones you've been killing on Mankrick's behest. And you're like, these are two different tribes. If you fight this tribe, the enemy tribe, I will help you. And he gives you like quests to do so. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that little hint that like the Quillboar have this more complicated society and like stuff going on than that the Horde is just really not engaging with. Because
I like the acknowledgement of the intelligence of the Quillboar, which is something I feel like was really it really reminds me of what I wanted in like Teldrassil and Darkshore about the Furbolgs. Like we get like almost no indication in those zones in Classic that that race is intelligent at all, even though they're carrying weapons and they clearly have a society. It doesn't matter. We don't get to find out anything about it, which they don't do here, thankfully. And we get to see the Quillboar intelligence.
And it expanded that. Actually, I think it's also interesting that the orc, the one orc in the area, obviously they very much look down on the Quillboar. They're pig people. They're not worth like doing. He does not negotiate all with this Quillboar in the cage. He literally tells you to go and fight that guy, that Quillboar's people, right? The Quillboar gives you a quest to go kill, his enemies, but simultaneously you'll have the same quest from a different person who tells you to go kill his people at the same time. I thought that's kind of interesting. That they're so disparate. Like it's pretty clear that if the orcs allied with, like, say, his tribe with like Quillboar, they likely would have been able to defeat the Quillboar in the middle north part of the Barrens and probably kept the north part of the Barrens. But they were just completely the orcs, as much as they're willing to share with cultures that they feel kinship with, they're very, very still tribalistic and very exclusionary in that regard. And the Quillboar can't be respected for that reason, and that hurts their actual power in the region. I think it's very interesting.
Now, to be fair, the imprisoned Quillboar also eventually tells you to kill the leaders of his own people, mostly because he's pissed off that they haven't come and tried to rescue him.
Or because he wants to have control over them, as you see later when he becomes their leader.
That is true. It is that too.
He a bitch anyway. Cool.
The Quillboar bits, the Quillboar bits do drag a little bit, but I think they were a pretty thing but they're not the finale of the zone. You got to go a little further south to find the proper finale of the zone, and that is our good buddy, probably the most memorable NPC in the zone, Gan Stonespire. So, Gan Stonespire is a Tauren that is just sort of wandering a patrol route down towards where, like, very much away from the like where like the Horde controlled places are, down towards where the Quillboar and one other camp is. You talk to him, and you probably would. And if you talk to him, you're probably passing by a big dwarven outpost that they have set up and like built into the hillside towards the southern part of the Barrens. This is Baal Modon. But the reason why Gan's Stone Spine is down here is because when the dwarves came here, they kicked out and killed a lot of Gan's clan here because those were his lands. And when you talk to Gan, Gan has you like fight the dwarves here and deal with their presence here. In fact, not only does he have you like fight them and deal with their presence, he says he is like very much concerned. Says, "All right, the dwarves are using these powerful gunpowder to make these explosives. Let's turn that against them."
I think this is really interesting because, like, it's so unlike every single other Tauren that we talk to, like in Mulgore, in Barrens, like everywhere. He very much feels like someone who's kind of like out of anger and vengeance, has rejected his own people in order to pursue this vengeance, like vendetta against these dwarves, and he's rejecting like their entire like sort of more simple hunter tribal society, and is like, okay, I'm literally gonna use their technology and I'm gonna fucking destroy these monsters. I think that's one of the reasons Gan like sticks out so much, is because he feels like a completely different kind of Tauren.
It's really cool.
I also think that, like, again, this also works pretty neatly into like our general thing we talked about the Horde generally, because now we get to see really the alliance and what they are. The dwarves don't care about what they're doing, right? We actually hear like read the notebook that you take from the dwarves to learn about the explosives. You find out that they just refer to the Tauren as like bull people, right?
Bull people.
They don't know anything. They don't even bother to learn anything about them. Kind of similar to how the works through the Quill War. And because of that, they're like, no, what's important here is these are some ancient ruins that tell us about our past. We must delve into that. And in a way, that's very similar to the way the Night Elves like try to like reconstruct the nature of the Barrens to what it used to be under the old Azshara kingdom, right? It's this weird constant trying to go back to this, which destroys which actively destroys the Horde's way of being and forces them to like revolutionize and change their society and push forward. And I think it's really interesting that the alliance becomes like a bastion of conservatism generally versus the Horde being forced into this area of like this strange alliance of like, I don't know, weirdly progressive values for tribal society.
It's really cool. This ending bit to the zone I really liked, though. Gan is not the only NPC you get quests from for this last portion. There is also an exiled dwarf who you can talk to like as a Horde character and get a quest to recover a strange crystal that the dwarves dug up as part of their as part of their like mining operations.
I think it's funny because this character, because of his existence, humanizes and makes you empathize more with the dwarves, even as a Horde character, just because everything he says is just completely wrong. Like, he's basically he's an idiot who wants to get this cursed artifact that when you get it for him, which was taken away so unfairly by the general of this place. Oh, I'm so mad about it. You should get it for me. And you get it for him. And then he immediately, when you give to him, he immediately turns into a trog. It's like, wow, this guy is an idiot. And his the general Twin Braid was right to take it away from him.
It's kind of
an
horrifying.
Idiot. Oh, it was like, completely horrifying.
To see him, it also transformed there.
It's really important because it makes you, it's like, oh, this guy that I just killed was actually like not a crazy like monster or anything. He was just a guy who was like trying to look out for his own.
Mm-hmm. It's really cool, and I think it like sets up the conflicts between the Alliance and the Horde in a way that is really meaningful and really like helps with what it is. So that's about it for Barrens. Is there anything else we want to talk about for Classic Barrens?
I do want to mention that we did a little bit, but Northern Barrens is extremely rich and dense, and there's constant stuff to do. And I was like, even though it feels like a really calming and careful zone, there's still like constant, like different geographic features, different enemies, different types of quests, different like types of both the Rats and the Crossroads, and so on. I really love the way the Northern Barrens flow. I do want to say that Southern Barrens is very empty, and there's a lot of Quill War, and there's a lot of running back and forth between this empty area with a lot of Quill War in it.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was a little frustrating. And also, we didn't mention the Raptors. We got to remember the Raptors.
Oh god, right, you're
God,
right. The
wow.
raptors. Fuck.
The raptors is insane. Okay, so you find out that there's like these raptors. This guy's like, oh my god, these raptors stole my silver, and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then you get a couple quests to kill the raptors, and you like find them, and eventually you find the silver, but it's like these raptors have organized their society and built nests, and they have this like whole pit of dead people, which is like really horrific. But like for some reason, the raptors are super intelligent, and no one explains it to you ever. You're just like, okay, I guess there's just super intelligent raptors in the Barrens. Okay.
There's one goblin's like we gotta grind down their horns. Their intelligence is probably in there.
Yep.
The
What a weird quest.
Unhinged quest.
I tried to figure out a reason why I think someone's like, I have a funny idea about raptors, and I was like,
no,
you don't. Get the fuck out of here. This not dude anyway.
I feel like it's annoying because I feel like it could work just as part of the whole Wailing Caverns corruption thing, but
works perfectly. I loved it. I'm pretty sure it's a reference to like Jurassic Park and how raptors are super smart in it. Stuff like that, like weird tropes about raptors. I think it's just like a little silly quest line.
Fair enough.
I mean, like the one thing I could possibly think is maybe they were trying to do a thing. Well, intelligence and society and stuff are found in the most, surprising places.
There's no way.
Right?
No way.
I'm saying I do think this is a stretch. But I was like, that's why I was up like playing the quest. I was like, is that what they're doing here? I don't know. I just throw my hands up like whatever. It's possible. It's possible they were trying to do a thing, but it's how it is raptors just steal silver and they have a weird pit where they throw humans and orcs and stuff.
Bro, that pit's scary as hell. When I saw it, I was like, whoa. Creepy.
That sure was a thing. Yeah, okay, that basically covers it for Classic Barrens. Now, this zone is so big that when they remade it for Cataclysm, they put a big rift, like literally just a huge, like, they had Deathwing just like carve a huge scar through the land to separate it into a Northern Barrens and a Southern Barrens. The Northern Barrens is still an early game zone for for still like generally the second zone you're going to go to for Tauren, Troll, and Orc players, and well, it's one of the options for them anyway. And the southern portion is retooled into a mid game zone. A higher level zone that's usually a higher level zone that you would generally go to after a little bit of questing. So let's start with Northern Barrens. Northern Barrens hits most of the same plot beats that the original Barrens does. You fight the Centaur, you do silly things for goblins, you fight the pirates. But there are some like notable changes to the structure that I felt were really worth highlighting. Specifically, the rail shooters. So every time you go into like a new area, like instead of unlike in like regular Barrens where you just would walk, just like take a long walk and like kill beasts on the way to like go from like Ratchets to Barrens to wherever. Get put on you get put on a Kodo caravan and do a rail shooter where you shoot down a bunch of like evil orcs. It's really strange.
Hey, sometimes you shoot Quillbore.
That is true.
There are multiple of them. We're on these Kodos, and you're just like the. I did do it at the very beginning of the zone. Like we have a lot more like intense conflicts with Quillbore, where the Quillbores like especially in the north part of like Barrens don't feel like this extreme threat. They feel like sort of this weird kind of a nuisance more than like a serious threat. And it was interesting how they continue the Dorotar sort of idea of like the Quillbore as a serious threat that are pushing in the Horde.
It's true.
I'm not sure exactly to get that, but it was kind of compelling that from the very beginning, get this fucking hell, these Quillbore are like burning down our place, they're hurting our people. We need to get back at them. And like the very like process of getting from Duratar to the crossroads requires like multiple Kodo trips of like heavily armed convoys, and that was definitely a very different experience at the beginning of the zone than the original Barrens.
Mm-hmm. It felt I mean, I like it as like a little thing, and it was kind of cool to see Mankrik again with him with a much more reasonable version of killing Cold War this time.
Only 30 this time.
Only
not
30
60.
instead of 60 tusks. And then you hit the crossroads. You go do the crossroads. Some stuff has been kept pretty much the same. For example, like while the hunting quests are severely reduced, they're still there, and the same NPC still gives you pretty much the same dialogue. The corruption quests are basically the same. A lot was left basically intact, but the way it is presented is very different. In particular, Ratchet is going to be like the next place you get to. You do more, and there's more kitschy things there. And the pirate area has been like completely overhauled. In that there aren't pirates there anymore. Instead of dealing with pirates, you deal with a whole bunch of Alliance soldiers who've been like apparently causing problems for Ratchet even more. And you free the captain of the pirates, who has apparently hidden a thing.
You can also kill him. I think that was actually interesting that you had a choice in the quest. That's a neat thing. It's not very common for WoW to give you a choice in a quest.
True. There's that human pirate that you can like negotiate with. And then you go to Plunder Isle, and then after you're dealing with those guys, you go to. Oh, by the way, because they thought this was an extremely important bit of questing, and this part I actually did like. The way that the raptors are still here, they're still stealing silver. Although this time they're at least, instead of being like presented with "there's raptors stealing our silver," it's presented in a little more interesting of a way, which is like something has been stealing our silver. We have to go find the last caravan that's been going missing. Go find them. And you go and you find raptors.
Yeah, it was a more compelling way to introduce the quest. It's not like, oh yeah, raptors are stealing our silver, go find it. It's like, oh, something attacked our caravan and stole the money. Go figure it out. Like it's just a much more compelling way to put in the quest. It's also just funnier when you find out the raptors stole all of it. Also, right there, okay, I know it's not that important, but like there's this one quest you do around these raptors, which involves this guy with a really heavy lisp telling you that he wants to shrink all of the raptors, and it's I don't understand the point of the quest, and it's just there, and you shrink raptors and you bring them back to him, and he's like, oh no, I forgot how to enlarge them, and I'm just like, why does this quest exist? What are you trying to accomplish here?
Cataclysm kitschiness.
Yeah, welcome to Cataclysm. Cataclysm sometimes is more interested in doing stupid jokes than it is telling a story.
I feel like this gets into like the big loss from going from Northern Barrens to Crossroads, and I feel like the big vibe of this like vast place that the original Crossroads is kind of lost when you go to the vibe of the original Barrens is kind of lost with the Northern Barrens zone in a way that I felt in turning it into this railroad.
Yeah, it's been kind of frustrating because the music change. The music is very similar. This really nice atmospheric like wind thing, just like wandering through. But they add this really gorgeous, mournful oboe line. You kind of think, well, they're even doubling down on the sort of intense, sort of like melancholic feel of the original Barrens. But then that music is replaced pretty quickly by like these like battle things you get up while you're on these caravans, and it's like it just feels like they understood with changing the music and just doubling down on that feeling of the Barrens, what made Northern Barrens so compelling, the northern parts of the Barrens originally so compelling, and they just didn't care about actually maintaining that. And we're like, oh, our audience is going to forget if it like has to do with these like more wandering, like meandering type style of storytelling that we have to just get them from X to Y to Z place. That was a little bit sad.
Okay, low key, I kind of liked the one when you had to get on the goblin rocket and then the music changes, so it's like the most intense thing of all time, and you're just riding on a rocket with this goblin, and then you're going back to the crossroads, or so you think, but the stupid goblin loses control of it, and then you just crash land where the next quest line is, and it's just like, because they couldn't figure out how to fucking make you go there naturally, so they're just like, this is what we're doing. It's like they realized how railroady they made the fucking zone, and they're parodying it. It's like within the zone. It's very silly.
Yeah,
but
and
kind of charming.
Good. And that's what's kind of charming. I agree because it fits into the goblin style of storytelling, which is so like whatever the whole like the concerns of the Horde and the Alliance. It doesn't really. We don't really care about that. We just want you to we just want to mess with fun mechanical stuff and make money, right? And that sort of leads to inherently more comedic storytelling. And I think that works decently well.
Yeah. Speaking of comedic storytelling, this is the first appearance of Tony Two Tusk. Tony Two Tusk is fun. You go to a place called Plunder Isle, which is in the original version of WoW was used for a warrior questline. You may remember unlocking Berserker Stance there. You don't really go there as part of regular questing.
Bro, no one plays warriors. Who cares? Warriors are fake. Yeah, get fucked.
And you find like this whole like big pirate camp there, with a troll who has agreed to work with the goblins, called Tony Two Tusk, who like helps you, who you like help stage a coup and take over the take over the ship up with. It's a fun little pirate story that you do here.
Yeah, I thought this was also a charming questline. It's fun. Like Tony Two Tusk is funny. Like the like you're literally like making it. You're killing the current captain because he's not bribable by the goblins, which pisses off the goblins because they're like, no, he's attacking everyone. We need to bribe him so that our protection money means at least a little bit something for these fucking ships that we're making pay us. So he's like you work with Tony Two Tusk so that you can get a bribable captain in place. It's pretty funny, very goblin.
Tony Two Tusk, this is, by the way, not the last time Tony Two Tusk will appear. He is a character, for sure. And he makes a more prominent appearance in a later thing, but it's kind of cool to like see him early here, before he becomes captain. And
is he in Thousand Needles?
Yes, he
is.
Okay,
yes.
Okay.
So, deal with the pirates. You take the ship over to the northern goblin camp. You do some quests that pretty much were in the original zone. You do the camouflage thing.
The camouflage thing is really funny in this version too. Like at the very end of it, you finally get it working, and then everyone is just gathered around it. It's incredibly ridiculous. Like,
what does it do? And the question is never answered.
They said, I don't know, it's working perfectly.
I love the camouflage. It's just a silly thing. Yeah, again, like Northern Barrens is not necessarily a bad zone, I mind you. It loses some stuff from the original zone, but I don't think it's a bad zone by any means.
I think it's fun to play, like, but it loses. It's not a serious zone in the way that the classic version is.
Yeah, I think it loses a lot of the pathos of that original zone. Like all the you're not really telling a story about the formation of the Horde anymore. You're telling a story about silly goblins and centaurs being annoying, and oh my goodness, there's a giant scar in the ground.
Eek.
That is a little mean. I kind of liked the way that was like initially presented, aside from some bugginess in the original quest.
I was trying to make a joke where I railroad the conversation like by just saying, "Oh, it's a giant scar," to get to the next point.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry, I missed the joke. All right. Yes, you. The same Tauren shaman who like helped you with who had you investigate the pools in the original zone, is also going to he still does that to an extent here, and now he also has you like in one of them go up a hill to give you a really nice scenic view of the massive scar that has been torn into the zone.
Okay, but what's really funny about this quest is when he sees the big scar, he's like, "Oh, that's bad. Oh no, but you know what's even worse? The burst of jungle that's happening like just over the scar." It's like as a player, like not knowing the original zone, I'd be like, "Okay, that jungle doesn't look that bad. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. That scar, the big flaming scar with the lava looks way worse, but okay. All right."
That's fair. I feel like that could have been.
They all saw Deathwing. They knew that the reason the scar is there, but they didn't see where that didn't surprise them. It was the jungle that surprised them.
Fucking jungles so bad. I mean, I know that they because it's more Wailing Cavern stuff, but I just like if you're a new player, I feel like that's a really weird moment. You'd be like, huh?
Now, that's not the last thing you do in the zone. The last thing you do in the zone is you fight what is theoretically meant to be the big bad of the zone, in that you fought them earlier in a rail shooter, and they never showed up at any other point. The Burning Blade Cult, hey, remember those guys from, like, Durotar? Yeah, they're here. They're causing problems again. There's a few of them in the original version of the zone, but you never really do anything with them.
Yeah, they're attached to some class quests, but they don't actually, like, there's no quest to actually go to see them, I don't think.
Yeah, it's a little weak as an ending to like go up there, have a last scuffle with the with these like demon worshippers who have all have like this who have stolen this like big crystal and are doing some evil rituals with it and summoned a big demon. You'd think that would be a cool way to end the zone, the way it was in the way it worked in Loch Madon, but it honestly just kind of falls flat because you just haven't had any real interaction with these guys. And I do like how they kidnap the dude you were doing the dude you were riding up to the northern bits to the northernmost point of the Barrens with to like make the quest there, ignoring the fact that it was a little bug for us and he didn't actually get kidnapped. I just feel like they're not built up enough, and I feel like if you were doing like more changes to the zone, you could have like replaced some of like some of the stuff doing there to like actually build this thing up and make the finale feel more meaningful. And I just don't think it worked.
I think that's the very issue with just keeping the zone relatively the same, but just basically imposing Cataclysm style storytelling and quest giving like on that space. Because the thing about the Northern the Barrens is it is a diverse place of tons of different enemies, tons of different kinds of quests, tons of different stories, different people. Right? There's not this one clear driving force. It only starts to focus out towards the end of the zone when the Quillbore and the dwarves became this like clear present threat. But in telling a story, we just take that thing. There isn't really a enemy, and they feel like, oh, the Burning Blade people. They seem kind of scary. They got some smoky guys. Demons are cool. They're scary. So we'll use those, right? That's what it feels like. The like thought thing, because there isn't really any specific enemy you can call outside of just having the Wailing Cowers be the final enemy. But that also doesn't really work for the zone itself. It's just I think an impossible problem. If they wanted to do the zone in this new Cataclysm way that needs like a big like set piece ending, they had to change it way more than they did.
They could have just not had a set piece ending. Like it's fine. Like it's fine without it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying if they wanted one, I'm saying that they need to change code quite a lot.
Yeah, I feel like I think there is plenty to like about Northern Barrens. I feel like there's definitely some issues with the ways they set it up and the way the railroading didn't quite work the way it should. Unlike the Southern Barrens portion of the zone.
Yo, the Southern Barrens is fucking goated. That shit's awesome.
So, the Southern Barrens is a mid-game zone, and it is not a zone for just the Horde this time. The Alliance is also, like, here at the same time, and that sort of forms the primary conflict of the zone, is this southern portion of the Barrens, which is where both the Baal Modon and Northwatch hold, the main Alliance holdings here, has become a big flashpoint of conflict between the Alliance and the Horde, which again is a lot of the main quest of Cataclysm, is dealing with that conflict going on. The Alliance and Horde both sort of start in the same place, moving off of another big like war zone in Stone Talon Mountains, as they head into a what was the fort called?
Fort Alliance are monsters. I think that was the name.
You head into an Alliance-controlled fort near the start of the zone.
Honor Stand.
Honor Stand, thank you. You head into Honor Stand as the beginning and portion of the Horde. Now, I'm
pretty sure that's what I said.
I did the Alliance version of the quest, so the Alliance does not really stay very long here and are very quickly shoved along to, give them a big set piece. Hey, take a look at this big fucking scar. There's problems here. And hey, look at this jungle. That's new. And are sort of shuffled off to their own little starting area of fucking Northwatch Hold. The Horde, however,
so
on the other hand, has a lot more to do here.
So, the Alliance, like how you're shuffled off, like are you sent in a plane or do you just run to the next place?
You're sent in a plane. You're sent in a
Okay,
like a plane that
so
like takes you across the scar and lets you examine it.
yeah, the plane sort of sets up this like really fun action movie vibe that the Alliance quest line has, whereas the Horde quests here do the exact fucking opposite. Like you basically have you talk to this guy who's clearly like hates the Alliance so much and gives you a bunch of quests where he talks harshly about prisoners of war, says, "Oh, people who surrender don't deserve a place in my Horde, but still we should free them and give them a chance to fight again." And you do these quests and you meet this guy who's another prisoner and he's completely blind. And if you talk to him, he's like, "Yeah, so I was a prisoner and I wouldn't talk, so this captain kicked me in the face until I went blind in both eyes. He just kept kicking me and kicking me and kicking me." And it's like it's such a visceral description of it. Like you feel really outraged like for this man. You're like, "Oh my god, what the fuck? We have to kill this guy right away." He's like, and he gives you a quest to take the eyes of the man who blinded him, and he's like, "Well, and if he refuses to give his eyes up, so be it." And you kill the guy, bring it back. Like it's just a really, really intense way to start the zone, and you feel very much like so strongly that the Alliance do not fucking belong here, and they are literally doing war crimes against people who can barely defend themselves. Like that's the vibe.
The very first quest you get in the whole zone is you have to basically find this lone Tauren like up on the space where it's called the High Pass. Like, oh, I see you finding with the High Pass. Like the Alliance may have driven us out, but we Tauren lived here for a long time. We know the secret pass to the mountains. So the whole like first part of the zone is you're basically in like little refugee camps in the mountains, like with like minor military forces trying to strike back against the like the enormous like Alliance army that is like marched across the Barrens. And I think that's just so cool. Like literally, it's called the High Path.
Yeah, I feel like it just does such a good job of establishing the real like when you talk to especially the orc characters, they have very angry like definitely racist like speech against the Alliance and the people here, but you feel in your heart like while doing the quest you're like, "Yeah, he's right. Fuck these fucking monsters. I want to kill them." Like you feel his anger and makes it like it's just such an effective way of making you as a Horde player hate the Alliance.
Now, of course, some of this is done in the Alliance side portion up there on the attack on Forge. On the attack on Northwatch Hold, as well, this is going on the Horde side of the questline. The Alliance side of the questline does, I agree, have more action adventure vibes where you're fighting off the Horde as they attack here, trying to like gather together stuff, stealing a bunch of silver and gears and nails and stuff so that you can load your cannons because you are running very low on ammo.
Yeah, maybe because you don't fucking belong here. That's crazy.
And you run into the Horde commander, and you get a quest from a Worgen. The Worgen, by the way, have there is a now. One of the kingdoms of the Alliance has turned into Worgen and have rejoined the Alliance. More on that later, but yes, Worgen are wolfmen. Right, we mentioned this at the start. I forgot. You talk to one of these. You talk to one of these Worgen, and he says, "I need you to go and kill their leader, Karga Rage." Or he, speaking of silly orc names, that are like very villainous. He did, and I need his helmet. It is important to me. His helmet, just by the way, when you go find him and kill the orc leader, his helmet is just like a wolf pelt, and that doesn't necessarily seem significant until you're like, oh, that was his brother. Karga Ragor killed this man's brother and was wearing his like pelt as a trophy, which is fucked up and like does help so like some of that is built into the Alliance side too, not to the same intensity as the Horde side, but like some of that is built there as well. Both sides of the zone are very much trying to make the players feel hatred towards the other side of the zone. And I think they work decently well. Anything else major happen at Honor Stand before we move on to the overgrowth?
No, I think so. The next part is basically for the Horde is you go and find a refugee camp of Tauren, and they're basically a bunch of them. So they're a refugee camp because Camp Taraho from the original zone has been fucking destroyed and sacked, and all of the people here had fled.
Legitimate
from there.
military target.
Oh my god! Fuck you, Bane Bloodhoof! What the fuck?
That was an interesting bit of writing there.
Yeah, in one of the books, Bane no, we'll get to it later. Basically, you get to this little refugee camp, which is it's like right on the edge of the super jungle-ified part of the Southern Barrens, where the Wailing Caverns is kind of leaking out into the Barrens proper. And basically you have to deal with a bunch of different threats, like both this jungle-ified place and Quilboar, because they are killing people like who fled from Camp Taraho to here. Like so you have to eliminate these threats so that more people can get to safety. Like there's a real urgency about it that I like. And I feel like it was pretty, like, it didn't feel like a weird swing out of left field. It's like, oh, why am I doing this now? How is this important? No, it's very integrated into the zone, even though you're doing something technically different. Because as you start like delving into the jungle-ified place, you do this, basically you talk to Gnarlex and his apprentice, the guy who was stuck in the Wailing Caverns before, and you help him figure out the exact problem, which is obviously that the Emerald Nightmare has started leaking into the real world. Like, I don't understand why he thought it was something, like, he seems like in denial about it during the quest, because during the last quest, he's like, it's what I suspected from the beginning, but wasn't able to admit. The Emerald Nightmare is leaking into it's like, yeah, of course it is, you idiot. Like, especially if you've done the original zone and done Wailing Caverns, like, you already know all this information, so it feels like a foregone conclusion, and this guy is literally just an idiot who fucked up this part of the ecosystem because he's fucking stupid. Like, this guy pisses me off a lot.
That's a little...
I fucking hate this guy. I do not like him.
I don't think it's perfect. Like, I mean, I really do think Gnarlex is like expressing the very similar colonialism to the dwarves, earlier, and then also like with the human like invasion across the Barrens. It's all really the same thing in a lot of ways. It's like this attempt to build this specific type of community that specifically is disinterested in who lives here, as it is.
That said, to be fair to Gnarlex does acknowledge that he's been doing this wrong, and he does like make the effort to fix his mistake. There is something there that I feel like it's a little mean to just call him an idiot from that.
Well, he is an idiot. He's an idiot who wants to repent. That still doesn't mean he's not an idiot.
There's a scene where like his apprentice is trying to figure out ways to properly fix things. And he finally like figures out, oh, here's a method I can use to like, if I use this list, I don't remember exactly what it was, but he uses this thing.
It's like a seed.
Yeah, the seed to like return the deviant the deviant like life forms to their like original like form. It works kind of inconsistently, and he like says, "Oh, don't tell Gnarlex." It almost feels like they know they can't actually pick up their fuck ups. It's impossible. This is here forever, but they it's almost like they always like to the end are in this weird denial about their ability to actually change the world and make it like.
I think it's also important to like this solution that doesn't work 100% of the time. So like there's three options. It can either fix the problem, make the problem worse, or literally blow up the animal that you do it on. Like, that's pretty fucked up. He's like, ooh, don't tell my master about it. Like, it also seemed he's like, oh, you also fucked up. Like, and that's one of the reasons you don't want to tell your monsters, because you literally blew up a bunch of creatures. Great job.
This, by the way, is one of the only two portions of the zone that you do that the Alliance and Horde get to do together. Effectively, the zone has is neutral territory, and that area is neutral territory, and you're sort of doing this as a sort of interlude before dealing with the war quests again. The Alliance the Alliance's method to get here is totally quite different from the Horde's. Rather than dealing with a refugee camp, you are dealing with a forward base with a bunch of Alliance soldiers and two very silly dwarves who are trying to just deal with these fucking Quilboar who have caused so many problems. Apparently, there was an attempt to negotiate with them that went against the Horde that went very badly, and you steal one of their root binders staffs, and then use it to kill their leader for revenge for the stuff they've been doing. It's kind of interesting and very tonally different, especially because the last guy you talked to before ending this portion and going to Neralex is, hey, our commander, he's an idiot. It is absolutely not going to be. It's not just the Quilboar who are causing this jungle. This is just a completely mistaken conclusion. Please go up and talk to these druids up the road. They will know more about what's going on.
Yeah, and I feel like that makes a very different. Even these same quests that the Alliance and the Horde are doing, it still feels like it makes them tell a very different story. To the Alliance, to the Alliance, oh, these are the wise Druids that are going to show them what the problem is and help them correct things and maybe make their invasion easier, more comfortable. For the Horde, it's us fucking fixing the problem that these fucking Night Elf Druids came in their attempt to reconstruct their empire, even if it was in a strange, different sort of even if it was in the guise of natural preservation. It really takes the form of trying to go back to Azara's Barrens.
As well as the more practical solution of literally people fleeing from Camp Taraho have been kidnapped by the vines, and imprisoned by the vines that exist in this fucked up Emerald Nightmare version of a jungle.
It's a really cool way of showing how even what seemingly pure academic work in a colonial context can be something very, very different to the two different peoples who relationship to it. I really like that.
It does kind of, speaking on this, the early Alliance portion of the zone do kind of feel like, you ever think about the British action adventure films about gentleman adventurer types out in Africa, for example, doing doing shit. The Alliance side low key has that vibe in a way that is kind of interesting texturally.
Me when I'm Rudyard Kipling, a white man's burden. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, it does kind of feel like it does kind of have that vibe, which I think is deliberate with the way the Horde is played in this zone.
Yeah, the Horde zone is basically the Horde zone is basically like a horror story, and I really like these contrasts against each other, and the overgrowth here feels like the cross between those two worlds, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is why it's the most fantastical bit of the zone here.
Very compelling.
Yeah. So after that, after doing that bit, you head south back towards your respective war camps again, where the Alliance gets to meet the Butcher of Taraho, General Hawthorne. So, General Hawthorne is the Alliance's primary commander-in-chief of the military forces here, and is the one who ordered an attack on Taraho. And the way this character is portrayed for the Alliance of the Horde is very different, which I find very interesting, because to the Horde, he is just a monster. He is sorry, I'll let you guys talk about that.
Well, it's because you as an Alliance player get to talk to this person. You get to see his reasoning behind it, whereas the Horde only see his actions, which is attacking Camp Taraho. Sorry, a legitimate military target. What the fuck? Which Camp Taraho was used as a place to resupply Horde warriors and stuff, but mostly it's a little hunting outpost with a bunch of civilians and children there. It's a Camp Taraho is basically a small village. It's conveniently tactically located. Basically, it turns out that the Alliance sacked it. They fucking killed everyone there, those who didn't flee, and now the remains are a burnt village with a bunch of dead fucking Tauren corpses and a bunch of fucking Alliance looters just picking at what's left. It's really horrific.
It is really interesting how the Alliance get the character who did this, the person who is responsible for this, for the Alliance, is portrayed very much as a reasonable authority figure, trying to avoid doing too many war crime stuff, claiming that he deliberately allowed civilians to escape, hence why that refugee camp is up the north earlier. And his aide diplomat is very pissed off at him by the fact that he's like, this guy is too soft for war. We can't manage this with someone as soft-hearted as him in charge. He literally at one point just said about the quill board. This dude says, General Hawthorne would stop short of efforts of genocide against these pests. I have no such qualms. And it's just like, god damn.
That's so fucked.
Yeah, and
Yes.
it makes me think of like two things. First of all, the fact that you just like make every effort you can to kill this guy, General Hawthorne, right? That's one thing, right? Right? Like it's like for the Horde, it's like we need to kill him, and killing him will like solve all the problems, right? If we just kill him, we'll defeat the biggest threat, the general, they'll be thrown into chaos. When in actuality, they probably ultimately increased the violence against them. They probably made the situation even worse and more likely to kill more civilians because of him being a figure of relative reason. And it's kind of interesting that information is not shared between these two groups, and in fact is a purely an element of just the lack of communication between these two military forces. A. B. There's actually also a parallel relationship between two commanders in the Horde side.
Except it's presented in a completely different way. Because the one in charge, who's softer and clearly isn't used to war and doesn't super know what he's doing, is he, like you as a player perceive him as, and are supposed to perceive him as, an incompetent fool. And then the warmonger guy who wants to fucking destroy all, he probably would also he doesn't say it explicitly, but would almost certainly also advocate for genocide to the Alliance races. He's your more sympathetic character, and you're like you help him literally execute the old commander, and you put him in, and you help get him so that he is in charge, because he seems like the right person for the job in this time of horror and danger. Like, I want a competent commander who is ruthless and cruel towards the Alliance, because nothing else is going to work in this situation. It also really, because Cataclysm, we have a new leader of the Horde, Garrosh Hellscream. And he's very much a warmonger who hates the Alliance, hates humans especially. And this guy is very much of the Garrosh ethos. And Garrosh is not a good person to have in a time of peace. He's also not a good person to have around in a time of war if you're winning the war. He has no problem killing civilians, atrocities. Like, he's got no qualms with those. But in this situation where like so many horrible things have been done to the people who are living here, you as a Horde player are like, yes, put this fucking guy in charge who has this Garrosh ethos of kill the Alliance, we gotta protect the Horde. I don't give a fuck. I'm trying to protect the innocent civilians that have all died because of these monstrous Alliance. And it's kind of setting up how Garrosh like consolidates power within the Horde despite his really problematic tendencies, especially in contrast to some of the other two other leaders of the Horde who live in Kalimdor, Bane Bloodhoof and Vol'jin, who both hate Garrosh's way of leading.
Yeah, it very much shows that even like what the action we're doing, literally the reason this guy gets put in power is because we arrive in Tara. We find like the big giant gates to Mulgore, to the Taran homeland being under basically catapult assault, and you have to
siege. It's under siege.
It's under siege, yes. And the old leader has done nothing to stop this, and it's like, if this falls, then Natatara will die. Probably Thunderbluff, thousands of civilians would be burned and killed. And so he says he's almost like a place of desperation where we have to save these people. But the act of killing Hawthorne and the act of pushing forward this general, who are both direct attempts to save civilians, actually probably make the war in a much worse off state for in terms of war crimes, in terms of the ability for them to make peace. Because we basically put the two much more genocidal, two more violent powers, less just more warlike. It's just empowered. I just think it's interesting how that's the zone structures that.
It's also fascinating, like from a Horde perspective, these are objectively the right decisions. Like especially like if you have no information about the Alliance side, you're like, yeah, this seems right. Like this is a good idea. You're not oh, I don't know about this. This seems iffy. No. Like as a Horde player playing through this, I was like, okay, yeah, I definitely want to do these things.
Yeah, there's just one more thing I want to talk about in terms of the Horde side of this this part of the conflict is when we go to Tarayaho, we find the leaders leading the place. We're sent with a specific quest. And that quest is, hey, there are these 4 people. Can you find their bodies and perform their last rites just before humans like either burn their bodies? Because if not, they won't be able to like leave to the spiritual world like need to be. Like these last funeral rites, this like spiritual thing that gives them meaning. And all the names they give are like named the NPCs, all of which you knew if you played this zone back in the times of Classic. And I think that's like this is a really intense quest. And all of the spirits come disoriented, and some of them are angry, some of them are sad, some of them are confused. And I love the way that like you communicate to these spirits and releasing them. It's very similar to the similar quest in Aberdeen and Darkshore.
I was literally about to bring that up. That's crazy.
But it's very, very different here because that's more like this naturalistic like falling apart. Where this is like purely the work of like a
It's because both of them are the main themes of Cataclysm. In Southern Barrens, it's the conflict between the Horde and the Alliance, and in Darkshore, it's the conflict between like Deathwing and the Cataclysm, and the natural forces enacting upon. Already, like it's so good. It's good. I like it.
I do find kind of funny how like the main quest that you're doing down there for the Alliance is on General Hawthorne's behalf to go like find those looters who have like who have like apparently joined the Alliance army for the plunder and the killing, and arrest them. Some of the dialogue there is very like tonally strange, in which they say stuff like "can't go back to the clink," and that was a little odd, but I find that very interesting as like the decision to make the quest to go there.
I feel like that decision is because they're trying to make the Alliance side feel light and funny, like in direct contrast with the Horde side. Like I feel like that's very intentional.
That's fair. Especially because like you find when you're like there and you find out, hey, looks like there was some kind of because you also go there to like find some like missing Horde intelligence to bring to the guy who the guy who's upset that Hawthorne is not going as far as he thinks he should. And one of the things is, oh, hey, there's a death warrant for General Hawthorne. Damn, thanks for bringing that to me. He does absolutely nothing about this because he wants General Hawthorne's head. Very
Bro, that's fucked
up. That brings us to the last 2 parts. Now, after we do that, and you do the thing and like we do more stuff at the camps, we now fight Quilboar again. So we go down to a camp with another neutral faction. Instead of the druids, this time it is the shamans of the Earthen Ring, where there are representatives of both like the Horde and the Alliance races. There's orcs, dwarves, Tauren there, and a Draenei that are also sort of like separate from the conflict, dealing with like, hey, I know that this stuff's bad up there, but like we're also having some problems with the Quilboar. It felt like it's a little bit of a breather after the more intense stuff from the war sequence and the last portion of the thing, where you go like deal with like the Quilboar and you remember that dude in a cage we found earlier? Remember that guy? He's in charge now.
Yeah, in Classic. Wow.
He's in charge now. Now you gotta go kill him.
Yeah, fuck you, Mangletooth. I never liked you anyway. Basically, you meet Mancrick again. He says, kill more Quilboar, and of course you do it. Gotta kill those Quilboar.
Yep.
And you do some as well as a few like Earthen Ring. The Earthen Ring are a group of shamans in the WoW. They are neutral aligned, but because most shamans are they're mostly Horde, so the Earthen Ring has a pretty Horde-y vibe. You know, very. Very Horde vibes, whatever that means.
Tauren vibe. I think lore-wise, the Earthen Ring is originally a Tauren organization, although it has expanded to orcs, Draenei, and dwarves as well.
I always more heavily associated it with orcs, but I think that's just because of Thrall.
Fair enough. But yeah, you go deal with like corruption stuff that's happening in the land. Quillbore stuff. Is there anything we feel like is worth really noting
Oh,
here?
I want to talk about, yeah. So basically, we see at the very bottom is Mancrick, our boy Mancrick. He's fucking
Boy.
slaughtering all these Quillbore, and a big thing that these one of the goals of this Earth Ring seem to be is like, hey, that we need to like calm this guy's soul because there's only hate and bloodlust in it, right? It's like it feels like we've been doing all this like constant conflicts in the Horde and Alliance. These like this like relatively morally gray sort of conflict. Just generally not here in this case. This is pretty clear, but generally across the war, there's both sides commit like relatively equal amount of atrocities, and the like Horde probably generally more than the Alliance. But still, we see this guy.
Garish's whole goal was to make it so that everyone hated the Horde more. He's like, okay, the Alliance have been killing us in war crimes, guys. It's embarrassing. So I'm gonna go blow up Kultiras. Not Kultiras. Theramore. That's chill with everyone, right? No? Oh, I don't give a fuck. LOL, bruh.
Yeah. But like, we have him here, and he's like his anger seems to be almost sort of like this like fiery hot. I need revenge. More of like cold. Like I have no meaning. I have no worth to my life besides killing Bill Quillbore. Like without my wife, like I don't even like. It seems to be able to even like connects. It's like I'm taking revenge, but rather I am doing what my duty is. My duty is to kill Quillbore, and it feels like like a strangely like simplistic sort of like reflection of the war between the Horde and the Alliance, right? Instead of having this specific sort of violent historical conflict, instead we just have killing, and the historical like cultural research for the killing of like completely like was like faded away into like basically meaninglessness, and we only have killing, and we constantly are trying to bring him back, trying to like, calm him down, and be like, we can't run a world that way. We their problem sometimes killing's gonna happen, sometimes it's going to be violence, but like Earth Ring's goal is ultimately this sort of connection. Earth Ring, I think, very much are they're not Horde a lot, they're not Horde aligned, but they're very much Horde culturally, right? They're these group of people who want to move the elements, who like clearly are coming up of like they're very very not patriarchal, right? They're very like mixed gender, they're very like their goals they don't have the druid goals of like preservation and anything like that. It's purely communication, understanding, right? Empathy, if one would put it as.
Also to fix the world with Deathwing fucked everything up.
Yeah, but not fix it to return it to a past. Fix it and stop it from dying.
That's true.
It's very different than like the druid idea, which is very much like a reactive thing.
That is an interesting way to think of. That really is an interesting way to think about it. That like while the Circle and the Ring are both neutral organizations, the Circle their ethos feels very different in that sense. I think that's really cool, actually.
Yeah, and I think it's very much related to the way in which they see Mancrick. It's not like they never say, "Oh, Mancrick, you shouldn't kill Quillbore," right? They always say, "This violence will consume you," right? Because that is what they see as the problem. And I think that's a really interesting thing going to our very last bit of the zone.
Hey, remember Gan Stonespine? Got shot.
Spire.
Remember Gan Stonespire? He got shot.
I feel like there's more to that.
I feel like we should start. I feel like we should start with the Horde version because it basically happens chronologically first.
Okay, so basically, Gan Stonespire, the super vengeful Tauren, has basically he has after Camp Taraho got sacked, he ran off like completely rejecting Tauren society and like the Horde in general. He ran off with a bunch of like-minded Tauren. Who wanted revenge at the basically if any of you, this is a weird poll, but if any of you have listened to Ragtime the musical, and Coalhouse Walker, how he reacts to his wife's death, how he like gathers up a bunch of other black people and starts committing like acts of terrorism and is like I am already dead. I do not care what happens to me. I am getting vengeance at any cost, and that is Gan. So that's also Gan Stonespire's and his followers sort of mandate. It's like, I don't care if I die. I don't care what happens. I'm killing these fucking people. So basically, he wants you. He sends you on a series of quests where you kill a bunch of the dwarves at Baal Modan, and you find this goblin and you help him blow up the entire base. It feels very cathartic, like going through. It's like finally we get to do something horrible to these fucking alliance who sacked Taraho and killed so many people. And after you do the quest and you get back, you successfully blew it up. You're like, yay, fuck those guys. You come back and Gan Stonespire is unconscious and dying, and like you talk to what is it, I think it's like a druid, Taran, who's there. I think.
Yeah, he's a healer of some kind is the point.
Yeah, I think he came to aid them, not in their like crazy vengeance quest, but just to make sure they were all okay, which they were not. And he tells you, yeah, sorry, Gan Sunspire's already dead. He was shot before he sent you on this thing, and like it cracked his rib and it's gone septic, and he's dead. Can you take this bullet back to his people in the next zone over, and just tell them what happened? And it feels very like unsatisfying in the most. It's a very pointed, unsatisfying feeling. It's like, yeah, guys, it's almost like vengeance fucking destroys you, and this violence is not good, and everything about this was horrible. And it's very now go talk to this. Now you have to go deliver the news of this beloved person's death to his family, and that's what war gets you.
Yeah, but you deliver his note, and you get to his family. Says, "Oh, thanks for helping with his revenge." Like that's what he says. That's it. It's so strange and cold.
It feels awful.
Yeah, and it feels like directly the fact that the Horde can't go back anymore, right? They're stuck. The attack on Southern Barrens destroyed, I feel like, a certain level of the peaceful possibility of the Horde, right? And I think that's really strongly like emphasized here. And I think that like there's almost like an echo cry of like the Earthen Ring, right? The cry to Mankrik. Don't become that person don't become that being who loses connection to like what he's fighting for, what any of these things are. Sometimes you have to fight, but becoming like a monster, just becoming a pure cold-hearted killer seems to be the path we're going at. And I think that the reason the zone ends after that, and with just this like really cold message, I think is because of that. Because we get that message. The message is there before, but it's not gone through. And I think it's really effective and awesome.
Now, the Alliance. Now, here's what happens on the Alliance side. Much like with your main contact this time is the son of the Dwarven general who you met earlier. As part of the things after General Hawthorne was killed, you met General Twinbraid, the Dwarven general at Baelgen, who has been like basically taking charge of the Alliance forces after Hawthorne died. And you find his son, Marley Twinbraid, who has been sort of overseeing the Bael Modan and Baelden in his absence. You help him out, kill some of these horde attackers. You go, by the way, kill Feegly the Exiled, by the way, who got turned into a Trog. He's now just like at the back of the camp, and by the
crazy
way,
dwarf from the classic zone.
Yeah, it was, and like the quest there is really cool. Like Marley is just like a case of like it took him, it twisted him. You have to put him down. No one deserves what's going on there, and you actually see one dwarven overseer from Bael Modan is actually helps you out in the fight against Feegly, and then the dark magic turns him into a Trog too, and so you have to kill him too, which was really interesting and like effective there. So that was really cool, and I really like that as a callback to the original zone in the way that like it nicely sets up Marley as a character who is like sympathetic and likable, as someone who like clearly cares about his people here and like wants to like do right by them and do right by his father. And so the last thing you do for him is getting his flying machine as you like do a nice little pass over the great fortress of Baelden to like give it a little send off before heading back to his father to give him the news about like the ongoing battle at Bael Modan. And then the fortress explodes, Right when
Oopsies.
when you and Marley plane is in front of it, and you crash land right in front, a bunch of dwarves rush out of the building, like kneeling out of the burning building, screaming terror, like panting, like doing their best, just like desperately, like one dwarf desperately asking you, please save as many people as you can in there. Another person being like, we have to find out what happened. Find any hint as to what happened here. And the last one is, and then you go up to Marley, who's still in the plane when it crashed, and he's still alive. He grabs your shirt and he says, "Ale, give me ale." And you go do that. You go into the burning building, rescue as many dwarves as you possibly can. It is brutal, like seeing them just buried in rubble in this like fiery hellscape that the burning fortress has become. You find the corpse of the goblin, by the way, who did it. And you find a keg of ale to bring back to Marley. You bring it back to Marley, and he says, "Thanks. This'll make this easier." And he closes his eyes and just dies because he was way too injured from the crash and was never going to make it back alive. And the next quest has, like, I literally remember this because it's so cool. The dialogue literally says, like, as you close Marley's eyes, someone has to tell General Twinbraid that his son is dead. That person is you. And so you bring back the news to the general, and he is angry about the fortress and the dwarves that died there. But when he finds out his son died, he's just like, oh, that's a mistake. They've made it personal. And
which is crazy because it literally was always personal. It was always personal to the Horde. Like,
it's interesting,
especially to Gan.
And then General Twinbraid, the last two quests in the zone are called, and I don't usually remember quest names, but I remember these here, are called Kill Them All and Bury the Rest. Where you go to a goblin camp of like you just go to a goblin camp, kill a lot of them, and then blow up the mine that they are working in to just bury them. Just a brutal and horrible act of revenge of impotent revenge from this, and rage from this guy who just lost his son. It's a really effective. It's also it is sort of like this, like, area here is like a big mood switch for like the Alliance side of the zone, which does have these more action adventure vibe, and then having that thrust into like the sheer horror of war at the very end, watching all these dwarves die, and then like taking this petty, this like just this monstrous bit of revenge at the end. It really, really works here. I really, really, really like the way that zone ends. And like, it's not like a great final battle or anything. It's not like a thing here. It's not like a great battle on these swords with the Horde and the Alliance. No, neither of these quests end that way. Both the Horde and the Alliance quests end with a bit of just brutal revenge that really like helps nobody and saves no one and just makes this thing worse. You are not heroes in the Southern Barrens.
Yeah, you're a war criminal. Yeah.
Right.
I think Southern Barrens was like a really good zone. It was very effective and it was super fun.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about our favorites and least favorites now?
Yes.
Because I think we've gone through all those zones pretty well. All right. So, starting with Classic Barrens, what was your least favorite thing about Classic Barrens?
I want to go first. I'm going first. Okay, so for me, it's just that it's too fucking long. Like, it really drags at the end because I was just like so tired. And then there's a collect quest where you have to get a specific item from like 3 specific items from 3 different kinds of enemy, and it just took so long. And I was like, oh my god, why can't this stupid fucking zone be over? Even though it was a good zone, I was just like I think it was diminished by the fact that I felt it was dragging. Like I had less fun because it took so long.
Damn, that's
I think my least favorite thing about Barrens and Classic Barrens was simply that it felt like a lot of it was spent interacting with like it felt like a lot of it was spent interacting with harpies and the centaur in a way that didn't really make sense to me. Like these threat, like the Cold War, feel like a serious, like sustained, meaningful, like appendage on sort of the Barrens, the Horde presence of the Barrens, but the Centaur and the Harpy. Well, I both think they have some good moments here or there, but it's as threats as like things in the world. They just feel like, well, we have to put more things, more enemies in this space. And it felt a little bit like, I don't know, like, oh, these are neutral enemies in our RTS. In a way, that was a little bit felt like it kind of hurt the flow a little bit.
I feel like I agree with you for the Harpies, but just because like the Centaur are literally the people who like drove the Tauren out of their land, like I don't fit. If you've played Warcraft 3, I don't think that's a problem, but if you haven't, that makes sense.
I have no issue with them. I just felt like the quest could have been built in a way that made them feel that way more. That was my issue.
Okay, that's fair. I especially think it's weird that they're all around the corruption, but they also have nothing to do with the corruption, which is weird.
Very weird.
True. I think my least favorite thing about classic, God, you both took stuff that I was thinking of doing, but I think my least favorite thing about classic Barrens is probably the fact that just sort of the fact that the Alliance presence here at is a pretty major bits of questline that you do here, but the Alliance presence here is just sort of, hey, there's humans, they're evil, go deal with them. And there's not really much more depth here because the Alliance don't have quests here. That is the only way you're really going to be interacting with this specific group of humans. And I feel like, just especially compared to Durotar, it was a big missed opportunity to do something there.
I
really agree, especially because like the dwarves actually are really well integrated into the zone. It's like, why can't we do something like the dwarves?
I think it's because I don't think it should have happened at all, like Theramore being there, because it muddies the water even more about, like, is Jaina actually in charge of Theramore? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. I get there being, like, one remnant of Daelin's, like people still being in Durotar, but if you keep doing that, it just makes Jaina look completely incompetent.
Mm-hmm. What was your favorite thing about Classic Barrens?
Okay, my favorite thing was the Wailing Caverns, specifically how the way that the Night Elf druids are presented and how they've made this horrible mistake because of their own arrogance and the way they view the world, versus the Tauren druids that you interact with who are trying to clean up the mess of these Night Elf druids, and just how it differentiates both of these supernaturalistic societies' approach to nature. I think that's really cool. Also, the Wailing Caverns is just fucking also like just gorgeous, like the greenery, the winding fucking passages. It's gorgeous, and the themes are fantastic.
Yeah. My favorite part is probably, it's kind of somewhat an abstract answer because I think there's so many actually good individual things within the whole Barrens. I just love the feel of it. It's the way in which I think the Horde as an entity seems to be constructed through the ways in which the orcs, the Tauren, and the trolls interact, but it almost like and that against this kind of strange appendage of like the undead and the goblins, these different spaces, and especially that almost opposed to the Quillbore and ultimately the dwarves. It's this like specific kind of like progression of moving through the zone and feeling like you're coming together as a people. We're not just a collection of tribes. We are a one group of people who like have almost meeting through revolution, through basically taking these exiled loser societies and bringing them together to make something new and special. I really, really like that.
My favorite thing about Classic Barrens, fuck, you guys took what I was gonna say. In that case, I think I'll just go back to the easy bar. It's Gan Stonespire. Gan is just such a really cool character, and the way he like puts together that end of the zone and incorporates that last quest line with the dwarves. Really, that whole sequence, I think, is probably some of the strongest and some of the tightest bits of writing that I've seen in Classic WoW so far, honestly. It was really, really good. And I really like the way it like builds this like conflict with the Alliance. I really like the way it like builds the kind of ways the Alliance interact with the zone, the way the dwarves, similar to the Night Elves, have imposed themselves in a way that for them is deeply important and like deeply used and deeply like a thing that they want to do. And from our perspective is an issue. is of the fucking colonialism you're doing in here, mate.
Problematic. Ooh. Cancel them. We gotta cancel the dwarves
Cancel
of
the dwarves.
Baelmodon.
That's what happens in Southern Barrens. All right.
Rip.
What were you wowed by classic Barrens?
No. I thought
Not-
it was good. I thought it was good.
Not wow, but it was definitely on its way there. Like it could have been there, honestly, if it was even while keeping a lot of things the same.
Yeah, it just need to be tightened up a little bit. I think
It's just too long. It takes too long.
I personally think it goes right below classic Darkshore and right above. I would say it's a great zone. I think it is not as good as classic Durotar or classic Darkshore by any means, but I still think it's solidly better than anything we've put in compelling so far. I think this is a great zone.
I agree.
I would recommend if you're playing
I put it at bottom of great.
Yeah, I recommend, by the way, if you're for whatever reason playing a Horde thing in classic WoW, don't fucking do Silverpine. It's bad compared to this.
Yeah, so Tearsfall Glades is a fucking incredible zone. So and Silverpine is not good. So play Tearsfall Glades and then come to Barrens. Come to Barrens. And if you're playing Horde, you're fine. Both the Mulgar's okay, and Tearsfall's an incredible zone. So that's a good experience.
Yes.
Good.
What was your least favorite part of Northern Barrens?
My least favorite part of Northern Barrens was definitely the Burning Blade and the finale. It's just like, okay, why did you put the Burning Blade in? Like, you could have just gotten rid of them entirely if you didn't know what to do with them. Making them the finale of the zone after introducing them in one quest and then never acknowledging them again until the very end is a really stupid way to end a zone. Like, it doesn't feel satisfying. It feels random and weird, especially when you're not even leading into a conflict with the Burning Blade in the next zone. You literally just like, well, we fought the Burning Blade. Okay, let's go fight the Alliance now in Ashenvale. It's very silly. It doesn't make any sense. It's just not a good decision. Not good storytelling.
I think my
least favorite is the same order as last time for formalist reasons. My least favorite part of the Northern Barriers was definitely the rail shooters. Like, it just felt like we took this zone, which was so built around this feeling of wandering around and melancholic contented, right? Like what brings the Horde together is this shared melancholy at their plate in the world, and you just turn into, yeah, baby, we're on some quotas, we're going fast, we're shooting guns. I'm like, I just don't see the point of it. It just feels like there's I just don't understand why you'd even make a zone around that. It feels like it really misses the point.
I think my least favorite part of Northern Barrens was probably the tone shifts in certain quest lines. Specifically, there were two quest lines where, like, one bit where you have an orc man and a troll lady who are like trying to like do a deal with the centaur problems there, and just be, and then an order's like, I'm gonna go up and kill a bunch of them, yeah, and then you just go do that. and then the troll there is just like, it's funny, but it just feels tonally wrong for the Horde portion of the zone in a way that I felt didn't really work, especially when like the woman there is like, well, I guess it worked there, that's good.
Okay, I low-key liked that though. I thought it was funny.
You guys took the important stuff for me to take. I gotta take something else. But really though, the issue is like that one troll with the weird, like, phonetically written out lisp that was, I guess, sounding like Elmer Fudd, and I think was meant to be a reference to Elmer Fudd somehow, who like shrunk a bunch of raptors, and it's just like, why is this here? This is not particularly funny. It's just sort of, I mean, I guess I might have found it funny if I was like a kid, but like do people enjoy this style of humor? Like, what was going on there? That was a really strange quest.
Yeah, it was weird. Okay.
And really that just builds towards, so like, I feel like tonally the new Northern Barrens has some issues, except for some parts. Some parts of the goblin section were done very well, and some parts of like in the ending had
I think actually all of the goblin parts were done well.
That's true. All of the quests for goblins, like, the kitschiness felt right in a way that it really didn't for that quest, especially because it's like starts pretty seriously with like the brutal attack that is made on this Horde caravan, and then you have this silly dude who's like, hey, shrink raptors.
It was really weird.
All right. What was your favorite part of Northern Barrens?
My favorite part was just the meta parody of its own flaws, in the form of like when you finish with the Goblin Quest and they send you on a rocket back to like I talked about it earlier, a rocket back to the Barrens, and then you just like you go to the Barrens and they're like, oh, actually, we're not going to, go to the Crossroads. Actually, we're not going to the Crossroads. LOL. I'm losing control of the rocket. I thought it's just making fun of the fact that you've been railroaded into each different part of the zone. And it was funny. Like it was just really funny.
My favorite part of the zone was probably making the Quillbore more of a present threat. Because it feels to me in the original zone that the Quillbore just are this nothing thing, right? But it's like, if you actually look, like if I were the Horde in Crossroads, I should consider the Quillbore my most significant threat. They've burned down and destroyed several, towns and villages and potential military outposts, and they pretty much own the much larger part of the Barrens than the Horde do. They are the strongest power within Barrens. Like, why are they given such little concern? Where it feels to me that here the kind of immediate clear threat of them from the beginning, I just feel like it just feels more significant and more compelling. Like, I really wish it would have made a lot more sense if Quillbore were actually the final boss of this zone as well.
Agreed. Yeah. Big men mucking about, not on my watch. Summons a bunch of. I remember playing Hearthstone. So I think my favorite part of the zone is probably the Tony Two Tusk sequence. It's just a nice, fun bit of questing here where the tone did hit correctly, where the silly stuff with with the pirates and the way it was done here, especially because it's more stuff doing for Gazlowe and you got some. Oh wait, no, I have this. No, sorry, I'm gonna withdraw that. My favorite part of the zone is one little bit in Ratchet specifically the quest where you go to Ratchet. And on behalf of the apothecary guy I mentioned earlier, and bring some findings about the corrupted lakes to this undead lady in a bar in Ratchet, and then a soldier from Hellscreams immediately walks up to you two, confiscates the stuff that's being sent to the Forsaken, and angrily angrily says, "What are you doing? This research belongs to the Horde." And it's interesting, and it was really cool to have that happen there and build into that big the big conflict that's been ongoing
the undead and the orcs, especially Garrosh on Sylvanas,
which again you see very much so if you go to Silverpine Forest, as we mentioned, which is really, really cool to see that friction building up and the way it pays off later.
Yeah, that was cool.
Would you recommend Northern Barrens?
Absolutely not.
I think it's I think it's okay.
I think it works.
Yeah, it's not. It's definitely not it's functional. It is a competent zone that does what it needs to do.
I think there's good things and there's bad things.
But just go to Silverpine, man. Just go to Silverpine. It's better.
Silverpine is better.
Significantly better.
Much better.
Yeah.
Anyway,
now Southern Barrens. What was your least favorite thing about Southern Barrens?
Okay, guys, I'm gonna cheat on my least favorite thing about Southern Barrens. My least favorite thing about Southern Barrens was the fact that in the WoW novel War Crimes, Bane Bloodhoof described. No,
shut the fuck up.
Fuck you. Bane Bloodhoof described Count Taraho, the fucking as a legitimate military target. And I think if you've listened to the rest of this podcast today, you know that that's not fucking true. And Bane Bloodhoof, it establishes Bane Bloodhoof to be a little fucking bitch, a little lapdog of the Alliance who'll do whatever and say whatever to get any sort of fucking peace. And he's a loser, and that's my least favorite thing about Southern Barrens. So fuck you.
It's especially weird because that should be the Alliance perspective, not his.
It's because he's a bootlicker. He's a fucking loser.
I mean, it's because he sees the cycle of violence. And he's he thinks this is his only option out. I don't think that's that bad.
I think describing the horrible slaughter of your own people as a legitimate military target rather than describing it as like an atrocity that has like
No,
like
it's horrible. It's a horrible thing to do, but I just mean like as a piece of
Yeah,
writing.
like,
I like it as a piece of writing.
I just feel like
I
there could
don't
have been
mind
more
blood, but
effective things there.
I'm saying Bane Bloodhoof is a weak leader who sucks. I'm not saying he's a bad character. I'm saying he sucks.
I see. Okay, my least favorite part of the Southern Barrens is that you can't play both parts at once.
They work so well together. I feel like Southern Barrens really fits the best if you have done classic Barrens, Southern Barrens, and both versions of Southern Barrens at once. Sorry, go ahead and continue. I just like.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like I think the zone is fantastic, but it needs both sides to work as a whole, right? I think both sides are good zones, right, in their own way, their own thing. They do lots of cool things, but without them coming together, and without doing the literal thing that we're doing now, and we actually put them together, it's very unlikely you'll be able to play both of them. At least play both of them in close enough proximity to get that feeling. And it's like, I don't know, it feels like it's an impossible problem, but it just. And it feels maybe it's almost like feels like a fake thing that's wrong about the zone, because maybe it isn't even wrong. I don't know. It just you need both parts.
The zone is so good. Torin also had to pick a fake example.
My least favorite part of the zone is much simpler. I feel like you should have spent more time with Marley Twinbraid before he dies. I like what we did. I feel like I feel like it would have been more effective if you ran into him earlier as for example, like part of like either like at Northwatch Hold or at General Hawthorne's camp, if you just like spent more time with him before like because the time where he dies is really effective and like just a big dramatic turn for the zone on the Alliance side. And I feel like that you could and instead of just having him like for a couple quests before that, I feel like that'd have been much more effective if you just like had more of him, especially because I like his personality that's put together here. The way he like cares about the way he like clearly cares about the people here, the way he's like very much his own man, and the way he like relates to General Twinbraid. I feel like that I just wanted more of that because it's so effective at the very end. What was your favorite thing about Southern Barrens?
Okay, my favorite thing is specifically in the beginning of the zone for the Horde, when you meet the prisoner who's been kicked in the face so much that he's missing both eyes. Establishing immediately like great sympathy towards him and the Horde, and like anger and hatred towards the Alliance, and then immediately going back and talking to the guy that like before that quest, like he sends you to go like talk to prisoners, and he's pretty harsh in his language about them and harsh in his language about the Alliance, which usually I roll my eyes at. I'm like, okay, whatever, you hate the Alliance, I get it. But when I come back after doing the quest where this man has been prisoner of war has been kicked in the face so much he's gone blind, I come back to this man, I talk to him, and suddenly he feels very reasonable and correct about these fucking Alliance scum that I should kill. Because the turnaround that happens from just doing those quests is crazy to me. How much I now sympathize with this guy who I thought 10 minutes ago was completely unreasonable. Like it's just the zone does it so effectively.
My favorite thing about the zone, I'm gonna give a quick honorable mention to the Taran gate, like the wall gate between Barrens and Mulgore. It was really cool. It's all painted and clearly like haphazard, just thrown together. It clearly is a desperate attempt to protect Mulgore. There's nothing like this in Classic. There's no like tar and walls like this in the entire game. It is something new. It is clearly like haphazard put together and like really beautiful. And clearly they painted it almost like this attempt of I don't know. That's really cool. That's all I'll mention. My actual favorite is Mankirk actually. The way that we take this big break from this intense, violent, like horrific war to be like this, to like sort of like look at this personal journey of this guy who's been there since Classic, who sort of like puts that old world together with this modern experience of war, of violence, and see and how he's not changed, and his systems are so like turning his head, and he's just so stuck on this violence toward these Quilboar. Again, people who are never properly treated as they should be treated, as potential, someone who this intelligent creatures who need to be like reasoned with, interacted with. They're still this pure violent group. And the way that sort of reflects the conflicts in the Horde and Alliance, I think that's probably the thing that's most compelling to me about the zone. the fact that not even just in the conflict being so effective, but in the fact that the zone take these steps back and says, like with that and with Narlex and just generally, to look at what is this conflict even mean on this large scale, especially in comparison relationship to the formation of the Horde as a being, a set of people, of refugees, basically, in the last Barrens. I just love that so much.
I kind of spoiled this with my least favorite, but yeah, my favorite thing about the zone is the death scene for Marley Twinbraid. It's just so effective. The way that whole
Lion's dog.
What?
Sorry.
That's crazy.
Sorry.
What dog? Oh, Alliance dog. Oh, okay. Horde scum.
At least you're not a bootlicker like fucking Bane Bloodhoof.
Oh, okay. No, but it was a really effective scene, having the fortress go up and just desperately saving as many people as you can, finding responsible and just like giving Marley his last drink before he slips away and dies, and having to return that to his father. It's just such, after like doing some like quests for him and establishing him as this like generally like noble and like reason, after generally establishing him as this generally like noble person who cares about his people, having that happen is just brutal. It's so well done. It shatters that action adventure environment with the last few quests in a way that I really, really liked. It's a mood change. It's a mood change in the best possible way, because a lot of times Cataclysm has issues with this kind of mood whiplash, where like serious things can be like juxtaposed with that thing. This was not one of them. This was one where it was really effective, especially in juxtaposition with the idea of it. Like, it lets the Alliance players see what the Horde players have been doing this entire zone in a way that I think is really effective. God, it was well done. And I think it's very obvious, but like, would you recommend this zone?
Yes.
Yes, this zone is wild.
Yes.
No question.
It's
Easily.
for sure wild. For sure.
It's
but I
so
like Dark
good.
Shore better.
Does this beat Cataclysm Dark Shore? It might. It's close.
Not for me.
It definitely does for me. Easily beats it for me. I think it's almost Tier 12 classic.
I don't think it's quite there, but I am willing to like put it above. I like Cataclysm Dark Shore a lot. I don't think it's as good as like this. This did. I don't know this. Like, I know that like people meme about these two words all the time. This finally had like morally gray. And do you know how it made things morally gray? Because it made the Alliance actually be the bad guys for once.
Bro,
in a way that was really
with
effective.
The fucking Blizzard? They said, "Let me jack off the Alliance some more." Like, why?
Because they're not ugly. The Blizzard sees the Horde the same way Thrall sees Centaurs.
Oh no! The ugliest creatures I've ever seen.
Blizzard has not looked at orc women. They're clearly wrong.
Okay. Also, literally, Blood Elves are objectively the hottest. Sorry.
But those are like the most evil race too, which is kind of funny.
Blood Elves are not the most evil race. How dare you? What the fuck? Undead are obviously the most evil race.
That's fair. You know what? You're right.
What? That's an insane thing to say.
That's fair. The undead are pretty bad. Yeah, God, this was such a well put together zone. I really liked it. Like, I'm gonna be honest. This would be wowed, even if it were just like this would be at least top of great if it were just the Horde side of the zone, and it would still be like pretty much in great if it were just the Alliance side of the zone. But the way these three and the original zone put them together is perfect, genuinely perfect. The way like it is done,
I completely agree. Fuck yeah!
Like all of our all of our like quibbles on like our least favorite parts of the zone were like, oh, this has problems from a meta perspective, or oh, I wish there was. It's hard to do like. It's hard to like put together this, and like, oh, there's one element of the zone was so good. I wish there was more of it. Like this was good. I think this beats. I agree. I think this beats Cataclysm Dark Shore. I've been convinced.
Okay, all right. I'm outvoted. I just really like Grimclaw and his friend. Okay,
I agree.
But we have Stonespire here. He's cool.
Yeah,
too.
but I'm not in love with Stonespire.
Stonespire, Grimclaw fan fiction. When?
No.
What the fuck? What? Grimclaw's the bear.
What? I know.
What?
Your point being?
Okay, all right. I guess Tauren are cows. Okay.
I feel that you could make the argument that you clearly can't perform best. Someone says bestiality is bad because a bear can't consent. I feel like the bear could do what it wants. I'm sorry.
Oh my god, I'm scared. Stop.
I will stop. I will stop.
What
now.
The next one we're gonna do is Redridge.
Redridge.
Yeah, Redridge Mountains.
I remember loving Redridge. I remember loving it in Classic, and I remember loving it in Cataclysm.
I have not done this so long. I remember nothing other than the Cat is versus the Giant Rambo reference, and that's all I remember.
You haven't even seen Rambo, like.
That's true. But
So why does that matter?
We will watch Rambo and we'll review that instead of playing Redridge.
no, we're not. We'll in fact play Redridge. All right, and I guess I'll see you guys another time for another episode of Wild by Zones. I've been Ari.
Torin.
I'm still Awen. I'm not gonna stop being Awen.
And see you another time.
Fuck
See
you.
you another. Bye.